Hi, today I'm going to do a video that's basically my blog post, so if you want to listen to it instead of read it. I'm going to try to condense things down because the blog post got really long. So basically, I told people in my newsletter and on my monthly blog that I already had the hero least likely done, but the thing was, I did those, like the emails and everything in the blog post, I scheduled those out in mid-February, and I really thought I was going to be done by now, but it turns out I'm not, because I ran into a huge writer block, and this has never happened to me before where I was completely blank. I mean, I know what I want to do to finish up this story, but the desire to write this big scene I need to write just wasn't there. I write romance. I love romance. I can write suspense. I can write fantasy. I can write a lot of things. But it turns out Western action scenes, they're not something I can easily do. So because of that, what I had to do was I had to get some advice from some readers and some authors. And this is the plan I came up with. And maybe this will help somebody else out. Like if you're a writer and you happen to stumble upon this video or even my blog post, maybe this advice will work. Okay, so if it's something that you're just like really not interested in and it's causing you to be like, man, you're just kind of a complete standstill, one of the things to do is maybe consult somebody who is familiar with whatever scene you need to do and ask them like what kind of stuff they would like in whatever that scene would be. And then the second thing would be to have like bullet points on like the series of events that you need in order to get there. So I'm just going to give an example from my life to demonstrate what I mean. So this is a Western scene. This is Western gunfight action scene, and I need to have it because the hero needs to have his journey complete. So the first thing I did was I sat with my sons and my husband, and I'm like, okay, so I made my notes. This is what needs to happen. These are the characters, and this is what they need to do. And so based off that, then my son helped me come up with like a map. Like, okay, where's the layout of the town? Where would the people be? Like, you got to have like your deputy over here. You got to have your sheriff over here. You got to have your bad guys over like in this, and kind of like how it would all work together. So then I had a visual representation of what I was working with. And that visual did help me come out with a series of events. Then I wrote, and for the first time in my life, I successfully plotted something. I never plot anything because every time I start to plot, the scene just goes off rails and you can just forget it. I end up throwing it out. But this time, this actually worked in my favor, and I have 5 pages. And I basically just have kind of like bullet points, like this is what's going to happen. I decided not to go with this, but this kind of shows you like this needs to happen, that needs to happen, is kind of a demonstration. But that did help. And so I basically like, and you have your sentence, I'm looking on there. And so then I'm typing and I'm looking over here and then I type in, okay, well, this is what needs to happen. And then I just flush that out. And it turns out like half a page equaled 1,000 words. So I did not really do a whole lot in the notes itself. So if you're stuck, that's just a tip, maybe that'll help you too. So I did not get, for those people who read my books and want to know when is the hero least likely, when is that going to be ready? I'm thinking May, because I do think this is going to wrap things up, but we'll see what happens with my editing team and if they can like work with me, because unfortunately I've had to already push back twice. I had to tell them I don't have the book yet, and I feel bad for them. Okay, so the other book I have working on, and this is a Regency, The Earl's Blue Stocking Bride. That one's so far so good, 40,000 words, and we're still going, so fingers crossed that won't change. And then I have like another historical Western romance, and this is called The Preacher's Wife, and I'm already at 15,000 words, and I'm thinking I might not have even hit 1/4 of the way into this book yet. And I might have to actually push back this, like the release date of this book, might have to be pushed back to the next year, 2026. Because we're already into March 2025. And theoretically, I'd have plenty of time to finish up this book because I do tend to write fast. But in this case, I have started a series of holiday books. And there's 3 books in this series. And I have one for Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine's. And those I have to really go by a deadline. So I may have to push back The Preacher's Wife. I have already bumped aside The Preacher's Wife to start Masquerade Bride. Masquerade Bride is going to be the Halloween story. And that one is kind of like the Trading Places kind of thing. I don't think she's really going to technically trade, but she is going to get to live the life of another person. And this way she'll kind of like, she's a wallflower in this scene, and she's not sure if she's like, she had it, her father set up an arranged marriage, and she's not sure she made the right decision. So she's kind of like wondering, you know, what if I had been kind of like more like of a socialite, and these guys were just swarming around me, and, you know, and they, you know, had a line of suitors, and she never did. And this is another Regency series, by the way. So basically she's going to get the chance to be kind of like the popular girl, where she's going to have a line of suitors, and then she's going to get that opportunity to see kind of what would have been, what if, you know. And the Christmas story that I settled on is going to be a wedding carol, and this is based off the Christmas Carol, because I did have a couple of readers tell me they'd kind of like to see that kind of spin-off. So I'm doing that, except in this case, someone did request that it's the heroine that is the Scrooge type of character, and I haven't really decided how she's the Scrooge, but I'll have it where she's that, and then we'll see like Christmas past, present, future, kind of like what the Christmas Carol setup is. And then the last one, and that's the Valentine one, It's a Wonderful Marriage, and that's going to be like, if anyone's seen It's a Wonderful Life, it's going to be like that. And Mr. Christopher Robinson, for those of you who've read my Regencies, he's kind of like one of the characters I bring back quite a bit, but I'll get to kind of play around with the idea of what if he had never been born. Like, he's going to get to see like all the effect he's had on people and stuff. And don't worry, I keep Agatha alive. I don't kill off wives and stuff like that in romances. Like, I read of a romance author who actually, like, early on in her books, she had a hero and heroine end up together, get married, and then later on she wrote a book where that heroine died and he had to go find like another wife. And, you know, I'm just, for me, that would not work. I want to see the hero and heroine always happily ever after together, because it's romance, and romance is a fantasy of the heart. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this blog here, and, you know, it's kind of like I rambled a little differently, but this gives you an idea of what I'm working on.